So, I want to ask you today if you've ever struggled with asking for help or accepting help when it's offered. Have you ever felt stuck in these situations? And I have found personally that I see how people feel that it's an inconvenience when, to ask someone else for help when you need it. It also feels like a shame that you can't handle this on your own, whatever it is that you're struggling with, that you can't handle it on your own, and that you feel useless or worthless. And I also find that people think that they expect help from certain people in their life, and that if they don't get it, then they must not be worth it. And sometimes people, even when they have help, but they're not able to take it and say yes to it because they have all these expectations of how it should look, meaning that there's so much control around it that they're not able to delegate what they need to take off their plate, right? From this perfectionism perspective. So you'd rather overburden yourself and micromanage rather than taking things off your plate that's not necessary, and that comes at a cost as well, right? Including isolating yourself from people in your circle. So if you say no enough times, people will expect that answer from you and won't even offer it because they feel like, oh, you don't need it, or you always say no, right? And perhaps I can also feel like if you say yes to an offer of help, then you become indebted to someone. And that feels like a burden in itself, right? That you have to owe someone and you have to pay them back. And so, one of the things that I want to point out here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, in the Quran, is that the first step for help is making dua, right? And so that's the first place that we turn to, knowing that, believing that, and acting on that. That's the first place, right? Just like when we want things to change for ourselves, the first step is changing what's within yourself, right? So then you open up the door for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change your situation, right? So that means that we're changing our thinking, we're changing our actions and our response and our behavior. And then the next thing is to help yourself, and that is part of the process in helping the self, right? There's tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah. So if you don't help yourself, then no one can help you. And I think that's the first thing to remember, right? Is that the process of getting help or getting what you need, taking care of yourself, is you taking that first action step of, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to make dua, and then I'm going to ask Allah for what I need with the belief that it will come to me in my life. The next thing is saying yes when it comes. And so when people such as helpers of Allah come to offer you help, when you say no to that, that's like saying no to the help. Because sometimes people think that, I don't rely on anybody because, I've been burned, or it's too much of a burden, and then I end up indebted to somebody, so I just rely on Allah. Well, yeah, Allah's not going to come down here and cook for you and clean for you and get your groceries for you, right? Or pick up your kids for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends helpers, and that's an opportunity for us to gain reward by serving Allah through serving His creation. In addition to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed male and female differently, and the way, in terms of the design of the male, and the responsibility for that is for a male to care and have an additional level of responsibility in terms of caring for the females or the women in his life, right? So whether it's the father, the husband, the son, this doesn't mean that she's not capable of taking care of herself, right? But she deserves to be cared for in this way, and is honored and respected and dignified by Allah in this manner that He has created men to care for, have that level of responsibility and responsibility to care for the women in His life, right? I want to share something with you. I was at the halal, meat store getting some meat, and I was walking out of there with 2 heavy bags, and the owner of the store asked me if I needed help, and right away I said, no, I'm okay, thank you. And as I was walking out of the store, I thought to myself, wait a minute, why did I say no? It would have been great, it would have been nice to have him carry the bags out to my car. Why did I automatically say no? And I realized that I'm so used to saying no. I've gotten better, definitely. I've become more conscious and gotten better. As women, we have this level of that we expect a certain amount of chivalry, right? Especially as Muslimas, right? And that we know that, but we're so used to not receiving it. We're so used to not getting it. But we also have this level of who wouldn't like that? Who wouldn't want that? As a woman, you want somebody to hold open the door for you, right? You want somebody to carry your bags for you. You want, and that's a natural need of how we're created as women. So we have this expectation, but yet when it does come to us or when it's offered to us, we have a hard time saying yes, right? And I think that from what I've learned, I think that it's okay to say yes without attaching any meaning to it. Think of it as a charity. Think of it as a kindness. Think of it as, if it's a man, doing his responsibility in front of Allah, as being kind to another woman, which men are supposed to be protectors of women, right? So I think that for myself, what I've recognized is that not attaching additional stories to why are they doing this, or at a subconscious level, because I didn't even realize that when I said no. And then after the fact, I got to kind of unpack it for myself, and I said, I'm going to say yes when I'm offered it. And I think sometimes, to get over all of this thinking that we have about, being indebted, having help come with expectations or payback and all of that, I think those are just part of the stories, right? And I think going forward, how we could release the discomfort is remembering, number one, is that when we need help or we need anything, there's 2 parts to this. One part is asking Allah, and the other part is taking that action. Whether that means that, you have to ask. And I'll share an example with you. It's, as I've been on my own journey of really strengthening my own foundational relationships with Allah and myself, I don't have any more fear or panic or anxiety about things that, are out of my control. But the thing is that what I've come to learn is that there will always be a solution, always. And when I've learned to live with that, it's, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never failed me, and the right person comes right along. So that still means that I have to take the action and make the phone call and ask so-and-so or ask so-and-so. And sometimes I get a no. But the thing is that not taking the no personally. I don't need to take the no personally. I don't need to build a story about why somebody said no, or that, okay, one person said no, so what does that mean that it's not going to work out? Like, my thinking doesn't go in that direction, which allows me to then, okay, well, what's my next step? To think clearly, what's my next step? And being able to think clearly in those situations, there's always a solution, and something always works out. So, who to ask will come to your mind. The next step of how to ask for what you need will come to your mind if you're thinking clearly and you're not, overwhelmed with stories in your mind. And so I think the next part of receiving help is also, I asked you guys in the group, is willing to offer help. Like, are you willing to offer help? And so many people said yes. And I know that about people. Like, people love to help people. That's part of our nature, right? And I think, and so you can say you get what you give. So if you start off with a giving, serving, abundance mindset, like, I have plenty to give and I don't lose anything when I give, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, whether it's your resources or your energy, whatever it is that you can share. When you think that way and you think that there is enough for everyone, so if someone asks you, do you have toilet paper, or someone asks you, you have Clorox wipes and you have like 2 left, you can give one and rest assured that you won't be stuck, like there won't be enough for you. It's just the thinking that gets us trapped into thinking that's not enough. And that's a perfect segue for Shaitan to come in and then lead you astray, right? Don't think for a moment that if you give something of yours, that it won't come back to you. It'll come back to you in some form or another. So think good of Allah and believe good of Allah, and think good and believe of your brothers and sisters, right? And don't deny yourself, but make sure you take care of your own responsibilities. And you know what? Sometimes we don't have anything to offer. It's okay to say no without the guilt, right? And you can offer a smile, you can offer kindness. So what I want to leave you with is the difficulty that comes about in asking for help comes with you accept what you think you deserve. Okay? And that comes from your thinking, right? And when the help comes, and you're having difficulty accepting it and saying yes, again, in the thinking, you deserve to have that help, don't you? So it's going to be up to your thinking. If you think you deserve to have help, then you will say yes. If you think you don't deserve it, then you're not even going to ask for it, and you're not going to be able to say yes. So think of it as God sending you the help that you need through this person earning a reward through helping you from Allah, right? We don't need to know their intention or their reason behind it. We are assuming that they're sincere, and that's not for us to judge or even try to figure out. And the last thing I want to say about you being so willing to help others is that, of course you are. I know that. And it doesn't mean that you do it at your expense, right? Remember the oxygen mask first. So it's your own personal responsibility to take care of your things, your responsibilities, and know that no one can exploit you, take advantage of you unless you allow them, right? So yes, have your boundaries, know where you can help and where you can't help, know where you can say yes and know where you can say no, and mean it, without guilt. You can, like I said, you can also give a smile. You can give kindness if you have really no resource to give at the moment, right? Because when you do it with the intention of serving God, you don't need to worry what they do with your help, or if they don't return it back to you, or if they don't do what you expect them to do. A lot of times, we offer help. We're like, okay, well, I gave this, and this, but this person squandered it, right? That's not even up for us to worry about. We make the intention, we give what we can, and then we know that our hope comes from God returning it back to us. It'll come back to us. You can call it karma, you can call it whatever you want. It does come back to you in one way or another. And you can rely on that.